Hey, John here. When I started to play, I was really obsessed with the fast picking stuff from Paul Gilbert and Aldo Meola, John Petrucci, etc. So I neglected my left hand technique quite a lot until I realized that that was actually holding back my alternate picking as well because, not being that smart as a teenager, I guess, I didn't put two and two together and realizing that this guy has as much to do with the picking technique as this guy. So once I started working on the legato technique, being quite systematic minded, I found this exercise to be really helpful, and I did this religiously for a long time actually, but the time investment is only 6 minutes per day. So if you find that you have any type of left hand issues, whether you're a beginner or not, I would urge you to check this exercise out. So in this lesson, I just want to share one of the first legato exercises that I got into and did on a more consistent basis, and it really helped my left hand legato a lot. So basically it involves dividing your four fingers into two finger patterns. So basically what I mean is that you have 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, then you have 2, 3, 2, 4, and 3, 4. And the idea here is that you're gonna work on each of these six different combinations for 1 minute each. And the rhythm here can be pretty much anything, but I would suggest that you start slowly and really focus on the correct technique, which I'm also gonna give you some tips on here. So pick any fret that you like. Let's just pick the 7th fret here, and I'm going to start on the high E string. Where you start and where you stay during each combination doesn't really matter. You can move it around as well. But what you want to do is to have a timer, and then you basically going to do 1 minute for each combination. So if we start with 1, 2, what you want to make sure to do here is that you position your left hand correctly. And this is what I consider correctly then. And that's basically these two fingers should be in line with the frets. So that will balance the hand in terms of reach. So try to keep that together as you do the exercise. But it's quite easy to start doing this. You kind of start slipping and sit like this after a while. So it's only 1 minute per combination. So really focus on getting the technique right here, because that's what's going to make the difference. So let's try it again here. So I'm just starting. So if you would do that for 1 minute, even that would be great. And that's basically what I started doing back in the day. And I didn't know about all, what I should focus on back then. So don't make the same mistakes as I did. If you do this the way that I show you, you're gonna get the absolute most out of this exercise. And it's 6 minutes per day. It's not a big time investment, but it really pays off when you do it consistently. So again, what I focus on when I do this is that I have my thumb on roughly opposite the second finger. It's gonna be different for you. So just do this, and then you can see what the natural position for your thumb will be, but on the opposite side of the neck. And then make sure that your wrist is straight, so you don't sit like this. And then you basically just do this back and forth hammer-on pull-off combination. And usually when I teach legato, I think it's good to move the fingers so you don't just keep them down. But as you're going to do the pull-off here, and we're always going back to the same finger, it doesn't make sense to move this finger, because if I do that, I need to put it back down and then do that, right? Whereas if I do this, then it makes sense to me, because the less fingers I have on the fretboard, the more relaxed I'm gonna be. And I can avoid what Tom Quayle calls the lazy index finger. So, but in this case, just whatever the lowest finger you're using, keep that down on the fretboard. But try to keep it very relaxed. You only want to have it down as much as you need to. So any type of over pressurizing here will make your hand that much more tense, will make it very hard to do any kind of faster legato later on. So that's why I'm so adamant about the correct technique here, so you actually get it right and get the good habits in when you practice this. So basically put everything in place, and then you start working on the hammer and pull off here. And another thing that I'm focusing on here is that I'm actually hitting the very next to the fret. So I'm not trying to do this. So it's going to make for not as clean sound. So I really try to get my finger as close to the fret as possible for every fret that I'm actually playing. So that's another thing to think about. So the speed here doesn't matter at all. So I wouldn't sit like, try to do anything like that. Instead, focus on the actual relaxed technique and execution of this. Because again, it's only 1 minute. And even in our TikTokified world, you should be able to focus for 1 minute at a time. And if that's hard, you will build up to that anyway. So again, starting here again. And now for the muting, I'm muting with my right hand here. And then also the tip of my index finger is hitting or lightly touching the bottom of the B string here. But that's the only finger that I'm allowing myself not to be exactly on the tip of the finger here. So I'm trying to be very consistent when I do this, where I hit on the actual fingertip on each finger and where on the fretboard as well. Because the more consistent you are with this stuff when you practice, the better off you will be when you actually play, because you build the correct habits. So that's super important as well. So now I suggest you do this with a metronome or at least your foot. So if you do your foot, then you won't be able to hear it here. So I'm just having my foot here stomping, left foot for me. And then I'm just going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then when that starts feeling good, you can maybe try triplets. And what happens then is that the foot will stomp on 1, and so it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so wherever the number falls, that's where my foot is. So I go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that's a bit trickier, but you really want to work yourself up to that, because that's going to help your timing way more. And the better timing you get, that's really how you control your left hand fingers anyway. So that's an important thing, but don't sweat it when you're starting out with this. When I started with this exercise, my legato was really crap, so that's why I did this exercise. So just by working on this for a few weeks, you're gonna find that you start to get this control, because what happens here is that we send signals from our brain down to our fingers, and that takes a while to get that correct control. So it's not necessarily anything wrong with your left hand, and a lot of people think that, oh, your hands get stronger, but it's not really about that. It's more about you get a stronger signal from your brain to your fingers, even though of course something is going to happen to your muscles in the hand as well. But if you do this correctly, it shouldn't be something that's predicated upon finger strength. So I mean, I could sit like this for a long time because I don't use a lot of energy, and that's not because I have like this massive monster bodybuilder hands, right? So just be patient with yourself when you do this, and like I said, just stick to 1 minute per day for each finger group, and that you will be amazed at how well this works. So again, just do this for a while, and then when you feel like, well, maybe I should change strings, yes, you should. So you go to the next string. And as I work myself down here, you can see my index finger still muting the higher strings as well. But I try to keep my hand in the same position, so I don't do any kind of sliding around like that. That's totally fine when you actually just play for fun, if you want, but when you practice the technique, try to be as consistent as possible. Here's a few examples of some licks you can find on my Patreon. If you're interested in that and want the tabs and the full explanation and lesson for these, you can find a link in the description below. So Once you've done 1 minute of these two, you go to 1 and 3 instead. Same principle. And what actually gets the sound here is more so than me, using muscles and force to do it. It's more the speed of which I'm moving from finger to finger. So when I do the hammer-on, the faster I can move my finger. Not in that sense, but even when I play slowly, I try to make fast transitions. And if you do that, you're going to find that you can actually work, you can relax way more, because you get the strong contact here with the string because of the velocity and not because you use a lot of force. It's kind of like if I do this, it's not going to be a very strong sound, but if I do it again and I do it faster, then you get a stronger sound. So it's the same principle. And the same goes for the pull-off as well. So the pull-off, instead of you trying to pull off the string like that, and I think the pull-off probably screwed up a lot of people's technique more than one might think, just because of the term pull-off. It's really, you're plucking the string with this hand, right? So I'm kind of doing this. So, if I start without even sounding that note, and then the pull off then is really a pluck. So it shouldn't get that meowing sound, as Alan Holdsworth called it. So same thing applies here. So really experiment with this. So you just sit there and do it very slowly, but with a fast transition, instead of trying to really pull the string to the side. Think more like you're plucking it. And you should really only hear the new note. You shouldn't hear any kind of slightly bent sound. So really listen to what you're doing. And then when 1 minute is up, you take the pinky instead. Same principle, and like I said, you can stay on one string, especially if you're new to this kind of technique. Stay on one string and just get used to it, and then you can start moving it around a bit. So don't feel the need that you have to move it around a lot at first. You can build up to that. So like I said, I started doing this when my legato was crap. So I know that even doing it like this for 1 minute can feel, very hard. But I realized why that was because I tried to muscle my way through this, and then in the hopes of like building finger muscles or whatever. But when I realized that, it's about correct technique and not muscle strength, then it just became way easier. So if you find that you're starting to get fatigued very quickly, you can be pretty sure that you're doing the wrong thing. So then you should just go back, try to apply as little pressure as possible. And then instead rely on the fast motions, both in the hammer-on and in the pull-off. And then, so that was 1 and 4. Now we have basically gone through 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. Now we have 2, 3. And then we're gonna do the same thing there. And then we have 2, 4. And then we have 3, 4. And as you see here, I don't hold everything down just because I'm doing 3, 4. Instead, I'm basically just using my index finger to mute the strings that I'm not playing. And if you're like most people, you probably find that 3 and 4 are the hardest ones, but you just keep at it in the same way. And again, don't feel like you need to play these at the same tempo either. You might find that this one is always a bit easier even as you start, and then doing the 3 and 4. So that's fine. Just work on the finger combination where that needs to be worked at. So don't even worry about any tempos like that. You just want to find, okay, what tempo can I get the cleanest sound, and then you repeat that as much as possible. So we've done it in the 7th position now. Now you want to do this in a different position every day. So just try it out in different positions, and depending on, if you're up high, that's gonna have its own challenges as being down really low. So just pick a position at random, but you can also be like, well, yesterday I was at the 5th fret, maybe you want to be more up at the 13th fret the next day, so you don't, you know, keep it in the same area for too long. And I would still do this exercise in that area that you choose for that day though, so don't jump around the fretboard with each different fingerings. At least that's not what I did, and I think it's better to do that, because then you know, like, okay, I've done this area of the fretboard today, and tomorrow I'm gonna move up to the 11th fret, and then maybe the day after that I'm gonna be at the 16th or 15th or whatever. So you can get a more even spread as you go through the week. But again, it's so easy to do this, but it's also so easy not to do it, because it's only 6 minutes and you might feel like, well, what's that gonna do? But trust me, do it every day for at least a couple of weeks, and I think you'll find that it makes a huge difference. Because basically what we're doing here as well, we've taken everything down to the lowest common denominator, because whatever you're playing on the guitar, you know, what I did here now, if you really look at it, it's all combinations of, you know, these different fingerings. Yeah, I had a slide here as well, but you know what I mean. So if you can't do this, it's going to be very hard to do any type of motion that involves that particular shift between the fingers. And also, you see here that I have a bigger stretch here. Don't worry about that. It's more about, can you do this? You can probably do that as well. So it's not a completely new technique. The bigger thing to focus on that you actually get that finger combination going. All right, so to recap, we have these 6 combinations: 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4. You play each combination for 1 minute, use a timer, and then focus on the correct technique. So you have the thumb opposite the first or second finger, depending on where it falls for your hand. And you make sure you don't have any, you don't bend the wrist, because that can lead to carpal tunnel and all kinds of bad things. Probably not by just doing this for 6 minutes per day, but still be careful about that stuff. And try to keep these fingers in line with the frets, because that will give a more equal distance for each finger to the fretboard. And it's going to be way easier to get these in time, and also it's going to be way easier for you to find like the correct feel for the legato in your left hand. If you want some more legato tips, check out this video.